You know that moment when someone says, "I love how deeply you listen." When your presence is a safe harbor and your empathy feels like home. Most people want emotional intelligence when it smooths the surface, when it means they don't have to explain themselves, when it dissolves the tension. But what happens when empathy stops smoothing and starts naming what's real? What happens when you look across the table and say the thing that's been sitting in the silence for years? Carl Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." You've seen it. The conversation that pivots, the subject that changes, the sudden heaviness in the air. You watch avoidance move through the room like a shadow. No one mentions it, but everyone feels it. It's easy to be admired for your insight until that insight gently refuses to protect someone's illusions. You hold space, and suddenly, you're holding too much. Brené Brown says, "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." Clarity can sound like an invitation, but it's often received as a threat. You start naming patterns, softly, honestly. People pull away, call you intense, suggest you're making things complicated, but inside, you know you're just asking the questions that make relationships real. Sometimes, you catch yourself longing for the earlier days, when your empathy felt like a gift, when no one asked you to trade your truth for their comfort. Maybe you remember a parent's silence, or a partner's way of changing the topic, the friend who never quite called you back after you stopped agreeing with everything they said. James Hollis writes, "We grow not by avoiding our suffering, but by meeting it, finding meaning in the second half of life." But most people aren't ready for that meeting. This is where the story always bends. You can keep using your emotional intelligence to buffer others, or let it become the ground you stand on. You can become the person who makes rooms more comfortable, or the one who quietly makes them more honest. Not everyone will choose to stay in that light, and that's the loss you feel in your bones. The people who can swim in depth with you don't flinch. They are rare. Most will find the edge, look down, and step back onto safer ground. When emotional intelligence stops making things easier and starts making them truer, admiration can fade. Sometimes you're left with only your own company and the comfort of your own clarity. But sometimes, someone meets you in the deep water, and in that quiet, honest place, just a moment, you both understand something neither of you will ever fully put into words. Not every conversation needs to end in harmony. Sometimes the truest connection is the one that lingers. A question left hanging, a silence you both respect, a longing for honesty that makes you braver tomorrow.